Hey, folks, and welcome back to the Women of Water Get Real virtual summit, where we are talking about where and why women are leaking from the water career pipeline, how to stop those leaks, and how to get women back. And today I'm so excited to bring to you an old friend. One of the nice things about the summit, I've reached out to some people I've known for a very long time. This is someone who actually worked on a project for me while she was a graduate student at Colorado State, where I also got my PhD. Carolina Maran, I'm going to go ahead and read this. So you are now, let's see, get back here. I was going to read this. Here we go. So you're currently the resiliency officer at the South Florida Water Management District, and water resources engineer with over 19 years of experience in integrated water resources planning, management, and regulation, climate change and resilience, hydrologic and hydraulic analysis and modeling, decision support systems and GIS, water conservation, water allocation and conflict resolution, urban and regional planning, and public policies. That is what I thought my career was going to be. These were the things that we were working on at Colorado State. And so I'm excited to hear that you are actually using your PhD and doing all those amazing things. So yes, welcome to the summit.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting. It's truly a pleasure to be talking with you. It's a long time. We don't connect directly, but I've been following you in all your activities from your side too. And thank you again for inviting me.
Excellent, excellent. And so you're originally from Brazil, correct?
Correct.
Why don't you just kind of walk us through, how you got into water, where you got started, how you ended up at Colorado State?
Sure. Happy to. So I was actually doing urban planning in college, not even civil engineering yet, when I was first exposed to the water questions and got fascinated by it, like in terms of how it really frame and direct a little bit urban planning, urban growth. And I really felt that was like the place I would like to spend time. So I went to catch up on some of the courses that I needed from the engineering side when I was still undergrad. And then I went to my master and PhD in water, really, because I found my place. I found my passion there. So I completed my master in Brazil, and I got in contact with some professionals in the US. I became very interested about some things that I learned that the US was developing, mainly in terms of decision support system and water-related decisions optimization. That was really the core of what CSU was doing at the time. And I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship from Fulbright to come to the US and really do my PhD in Colorado State. Again, I was working with some of the top professors there, really learning a lot about water resources, planning and management, exactly the area that I wanted to be in. So that's what attracted me, and that's how I went for the field of water.
Colorado State, it is a fantastic place that really brings together multiple disciplines. And I kind of had a similar path in that I was in policy. I had already gone back to school for geology because I was doing work in groundwater, but went on to a master's at University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, which was one of the few places I'd actually moved to North Carolina to get in-state residency, and worked at a consulting firm, and then pushed back UNC for a year to get the second bachelor's in geology at NC State before heading over there. And it was one of the few schools that you could get a graduate degree in environmental science and engineering without the undergraduate. And it was cross-listed with city and regional planning, and I had a law professor on my committee, and is very very interdisciplinary. And that's where I discovered systems analysis, right? Because I've had these kind of I think that's not uncommon for women as well, to have kind of, you like the science and the engineering, and you're really good at the math and all that, and really good at that, but also incorporating the human element, and also incorporating things like law and regulatory programs and economics, right? I mean, when you figure out how to take that qualitative data And even things like what we're doing here with these interviews, these are qualitative data, right? And turn that in, look for patterns, develop rule bases, develop knowledge bases, and then you can put that into a model with your quantitative data, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's the area that we use in every type of work. I work in different fields, academic, government a lot, and private, and everything that you just mentioned is part of what we do on every day.
Yeah. And then of course, Daryl Fontaine, our mutual advisor, who had been with he was a Corps of Engineers, right, at Vicksburg. That does a lot of these multi-criterion decision analysis approaches, and so learned all his methodologies, and was out there interviewing people, kind of like what I'm doing here, but interviewing farmers and wildlife managers and Ducks Unlimited, and figuring out how to take that and translate that knowledge into something that can go into models. And and it's sometimes not always, in some circles it's sort of, you need that black box. Back then there was still sort of the idea that that's not real engineering unless it's something horribly confusing, and we do all our magic in a little black box, and then we'll give you the answer. We won't tell you how we did it. But of course, it's a lot more transparent now, right?
Yes, it's definitely a lot more transparent. From my more recent experiences, it's not just more transparent, but it's fascinating to see how a wide range of professionals can speak the same language. Because water really groups a lot of professions. Like, we are dealing with a problem that really touches everybody's lives here in Florida. So when we are dealing with a big project, and you are trying to balance all those needs, exactly what you're describing. Like, it's a multi-criteria. It is like all those decisions that we need to balance, all those preferences. So it's fascinating to see how people understand, how people anticipate the outcomes of all the analysis, and how they can start early on in the process, kind of weighting things in their favor, in their what they are advocating for. But this is really fascinating. And you're right, it has to be completely transparent. It has to be fully honest from the very beginning, so that we are all on the same page, like all stakeholders understanding the importance of the decisions we are making, the implications of the decisions we are making, and how we can balance. I really think by being transparent, we can also help everybody understand that we cannot get it all. Something that we learned from the beginning with the water work is balancing. We cannot, if we get it all for one group, probably we are taking it all from another group. So I think by being transparent and engaging everybody from the very beginning is a process that you can really make everybody navigate with you and understand the complexities, and understand that you have to give a little bit, that everybody needs to give a little bit.
We have those models as a tool for communication, and not just something to crunch a bunch of numbers with. And I think, in some offices we still see, the model runners, often a lot of guys, working in their little computer models, and then, let's get some community outreach person to actually go talk to people. When, your best data comes from actually talking to the stakeholders, right?
Yeah. I completely agree. We have been transitioning into a lot of more engagement directly from the modelers with the stakeholders. Of course, we have support from our communications team and public engagement. They do a fantastic job in really helping us to navigate on the word too. There is a lot of steps that we don't fully recognize when we are planning for those engagements. But really, the goal is to have the modelers that are really dealing with the trade-offs that we need to do when we are setting up the problem, really talking directly with the public. So it's something that we're all evolving, but it's definitely the way we are going to, the way we're navigating. And I see that in all levels, from the local level, from us that are more on a regional state level, and the same at the federal level. So it's happening more and more.
And obviously you're here on your own. Everything that you say is not representative of the agency that you work for, but you want to let people know a little bit about what South Florida Water Management District is, and what that, what they do. Not too complicated, what they do.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. We manage one of the largest systems in the US, water management. We could not live in Florida, in South Florida, if we didn't have a water management system to move water around as needed, both from a flood perspective, drainage perspective. So we had to like really dry some lands and reduce the flood risks. And this was done back in the 50s to really like protect the areas where we selected, like that were reserved for the development, and also protect the water supply. Like we have water supply sources that are really near where we occupy the land, so, and where we do business and agriculture. So I think that the development of all the system was really tied to how we manage water. So this is our role. It's a big role in Florida. It's really making sure we ensure flood protection to the areas that are developed, to the areas that we have business, to ensure water supply protection. We don't want to have really, really high water costs. We want to make sure that our resources are sustainable and now and into the future. So this is a lot of the work that we do. And finally, there is a huge effort that is the conservation, ecosystem restoration. So all this development that happened like 7 years ago and the way the system was built had unintended consequences on the environment as a whole. So the bays, the natural systems around these developed areas had suffered because of this change in the environment. And now we're kind of regaining some of those ecological functions, some of these ecological benefits through some of the conservation work that we do, like ecosystem restoration work. So that's basically what we do. And in my role, I try to understand how evolving conditions from a climate perspective, and of course, we also need to be tracking land development, other kind of evolving conditions that have implications in water management. So we want to be able to continue to operate the system now and into the future with like reliance, with resiliency. So that's kind of my role. I coordinate with all the areas internally to make sure when they're planning for investments, when we are planning for future conditions, we really account for the right scenarios and really account for those things that are evolving and how is the best way to represent them.
Well, and so the Everglades are in your area one of the most important ecosystems and water systems in the United States.
Yes.
And this is an area where the Corps of Engineers is very active. One of the things that has come up when we talk about women working in water is just understanding the historic connection between how we do, certainly on the water and wastewater side and water supply side for sure, that is tied to it comes from a history of military operations, and there's that structure. And when women come into the system, if they don't recognize how the system works, how things are done in that sort of military structure, right? And it's very mission driven, it's very team oriented, it's very process driven, right?
Yes, that's exactly how you describe it. It's very process driven. There is this hierarchical system that we have to be able to read through. And I think you're right. Somehow on the way that we try to approach the problem, we try to think about how we can find a path that will lead us to the best solutions, but also a path that we can find consistency along the way, technical robustness, but not necessarily like revisiting the same question and revalidating all the time. Like we need to streamline a little bit this. We need to understand how we can navigate in this world of finding the steps that are strong enough so we can move forward in a fast way. So that's kind of how we try to do this, how we approach this, like understanding where we can step in and move forward with some solid step there, but knowing that we can and we have to learn how to navigate in the system that is more structured, but with room for innovation, with room for, like I said, I touched on before, like full integration and collaboration with stakeholders. I think all of us are learning how to do this in a way that is very transparent, technically robust, and flexible. At the same time, we need flexibility. The thing we need the most today is flexibility, knowing that we are dealing with an evolving conditions world, non-stationary world. We need to learn how to be flexible. So that's our daily challenge. So how can we add flexibility in the whole process?
The flexibility also comes in with respect to our careers, and especially for women. This has come up over and over. We're talking, I don't know, 50 women in this summit, and that in the military, there's you come in at this level and you go through boot camp together, and then you go up through the different ranks and everything over time, and it is a linear career path, and you hit certain marks at certain age ranges and whatnot. And with women, it may not always work out that way, right? You may kind of step off the career path for a while, or step back a little in terms of your advancement to have kids or self-care, or uh, elder care. A lot of folks, especially later, dealing with elderly parents, and but be able to get back in. And that doesn't always work in some organizations. I mean, what has been your experience with that? And I understand there may be folks, there may be some children appearing in the background, where
Yes.
Carolina is right now. So you're the
Yes, let's see
distraction.
how long
But
I
yeah.
can wait. This is very central to my life, and I'm glad we are touching this topic because I had to stop my career. I had two big events happening in my life at the same time that I had to stop my career for about 2 years, 1 year and a half. So I had kids and I moved back to the US at the same time. So I decided to have kids, and I decided to leave my career in Brazil about this at the same time. And so transitioning to, I've been in the US doing my PhD, which is a very different world than really looking for a career in the like business world. And this happened at the same time I was having my kids. Like it was the time, I mean, I had waited a lot to complete my PhD. So it was past the time that I wanted to invest also in my family. So, and I came very calm thinking, okay, I have good experience. I've worked for like 10 years for a federal agency, a water agency in Brazil. I have a PhD, like I don't need to worry about it. I was overconfident that that was going to be an easy transition. And for my surprise, it was very not easy. So I started writing resumes, and I am not kidding. I probably sent over 100 resumes before I got my first interview. I don't know if I was just not finding the right way to write it down, to describe my experience, not finding the right careers. It was just like a cumbersome process as a whole, which added a little bit of anxiety because I knew I wanted to stop. I was happy leaving that moment of my life. I was happy transitioning to live here, but I was always passionate about my career, and I didn't want to lose. Like I didn't want to have a gap on my resume of 1 year and a half, too, without doing something that would show that I was making progress during that time. So of course, I got some little work here and there, like with academia, but really a career didn't come until almost like 2 years after. So I think a little bit of lessons learned on that path was like really study the environment, see how you can fit better, like and mainly most important than everything, don't feel like overwhelmed by the whole situation, because I was in a place that I was like, oh my God, I will never get back to my career. I'm going to have to find another path. I was already kind of investing, okay, what else can I do that will make me happy too? But I mean, I still had this passion for water. I even volunteer myself, and I have no shame of saying that. When I kind of found a place and I said, this is where I want to be, it's actually the agency that I am now. I just found a person that was my colleague from CSU, and I said, I want to be here. I want to try. So I volunteered in this agency for about 5 months, coming like 3 times a week, finding their problems, understanding their problem, learning a lot, investing in my degree, like the PE, which it was something that I didn't have. So maybe it was something that was important to have in my resume. So I felt fortunate that I found like mentors and people along the way that really gave me the hand when I needed. And I tried as hard as I could to learn to make myself part of the context of where I could be a little bit more like attractive for the market, for the work. So it was good.
I've looked into that for myself as well, because especially, before I did engineering, before I did geology, I was doing politics, I was doing campaigns. And if you want to get into, working for someone, in well, better be out, in the field, knocking doors and helping with events and everything and helping that person get elected. It is that volunteer period is it's just a given. But so often I've found that I can't even volunteer, that there's so much structure around internships, and the internships can only be for current students. And, and some of them are getting paid, double minimum wage, and that's pretty decent income for as an intern, which, when we try to bring on interns, we can't nearly match the kinds of things that they're getting. And the universities are telling them, you need work experience, you need an internship, but they have to pay you. And so, like, for me, I train, I manage, I bring my team members to conferences and virtual conferences. I help them with their own businesses or careers, where they go to grad school, all this sort of stuff. It's a lot of work to manage someone, whether you're paying them or not. And then for someone who wants to go back to work, just to have the option to say, yeah, I would like to volunteer in your office until I have the current experience to be able to get hired somewhere. And a lot of places, it's very fortunate that you found someone willing to let you do that. Because
Exactly.
especially any place you need, public agencies, you need credentials and IDs and stuff like that. Often they just don't even let you volunteer. And so you're just sitting at home writing resume after resume after resume. And, meanwhile, the gap on the resume is getting bigger while you're just sitting there writing all these applications. It's like, just let me get in an office and show you what I can do, right?
Exactly, exactly. That was exactly my life. And of course, you go through a period that you're feeling like not very confident about you. This is not an easy path to navigate. So relying on support, on people that can help you not to have this feeling, because it's not going to help you. But anyway, I think the volunteering experience really helped me on that. Like, I know I can do this work, and I was doing, like, I needed to get the moment too.
Yeah. And did you have any support? And did you know anyone in the area when you moved up from Brazil? Did you know anyone in South Florida, in the region, or
No,
did you
when I
just?
got to South Florida, I didn't know anyone. So my first contact was from my professor at CSU that said there is a grad student from CSU there. And of course, luckily, this was a true mentor, like an awesome person who was in a good position in this agency to help me, and also willing to support alumni from at CSU. So I definitely, CSU was the link there for me. And of course, lucky to have a person that was in a position that could not just teach me, but like really allow me to be integrated here in Florida.
Yeah, and open some doors. Yeah, it's kudos for that. That's a really fantastic story to be able to do that. We've been talking during the summit about these return to work programs and these structured kind of apply to get into sort of an internship for people who have some experience and been out and want to get back into the workforce. But it just seems like there could be a lot more opportunities, and a lot of organizations need the help and could
Yeah.
use help from people who aren't just out of school, that have a lot of energy and enthusiasm and smarts, but haven't really been in the field and know how to, especially when it comes to things like community outreach.
Yes,
Speaking
exactly.
of which, uh, the area of the country. Oh, by the way, so as an immigrant, or as through immigration. By the way, there was a someone on the summit who actually pulled out their interview because they got concerned that it could threaten their immigration status and that sort of stuff. And it was not in the US, it was Canada, and I have actually been an immigrant in Canada, and so I kind of know that routine. But talking about um as a woman and having an accent and being from another country, whether whether there was the same level of acceptance. Now you're in a somewhat more Hispanic, region. So is it helpful? Do you have is your office are there other women? Are there other Hispanics? Are there other immigrants? What, people from other countries? What's your experience been there?
Yes. So yes, definitely that is also a central piece here. We think that the engineering, here is the background noise from the kids. So in the engineering career, we still have some limitations as a woman to fully engage in the career. And not that I never really felt not respected. This I have to say, I always felt respected, but on the level of, okay, being fully confident that I can do that, being a woman, having the accent, being an immigrant was definitely something that was touching when I was navigating through that. And it still touches sometimes, like when you cannot catch a word on a sentence that is key, that you just couldn't get the meaning of that. I mean, it still happens. It's something that you have to navigate on a daily basis. But I think the main finding that I have, and especially for being in Florida, I do have a high diversity here. In this meeting that the meetings that we have when I was still volunteering in the agency, we used to call them UN meetings because we had people from all different parts of the world. And this is something that engineering also brings to you. Like we have people that are passionate about that everywhere, and the water topic so really attracts a lot of international people as well. So this is one strong aspect. The agency do have a lot of diversity, people from all over the world working with degrees in engineering and in biology and environment, and really contributing to this. So I felt really well on that space, but not only there, in Florida in general. Like I really like the idea that I'm raising my kids in a place where I have more people like me, that my kids are not feeling that they are the only ones, that the parents are not fully like that are immigrants. So Florida helps in that way a lot. I'm happy that I made the decision to be here in Florida. And
Yeah. Oops. I lost your sound there for a second there. Is your sound back?
I think I'm back, right? Yeah.
Okay, good, good, good. You, and part of that too, and I could see you had a hand on your shoulder there, so I know we should keep you too long. But I do want to
Okay.
follow up with we've been talking about the importance of diversity within the water workspace, in reflecting the communities that we serve, right? And whether that helps both in terms of Hispanic communities in the area, that they can see someone at the district who looks like them, right? And and language as well, and as well with a lot of communities in color and lower income communities, perhaps having a lot more women-led households and communities where women are, community leaders. What has been your experience there as we look at more, water equity, environmental justice, and communities of color and low income communities in your area?
Yeah, we deal with that on a daily basis in our projects, of course. And I feel in general, talking about the woman side, I feel in general that the woman will have this perception of the balance, the right balance that we need to find in general. That's how I feel from the very community level, like understanding the multiple drivers, the multiple actors, the multiple players there. What are the solutions that we have? Really fighting for, really with passion, bringing the passion and really fighting for what you think is the right thing to do. I see that a lot in the interactions in the community with stakeholders, with everybody that is that we are coordinating with on a general basis. And I value that a lot. This is how I approach the problem. So I like when I find this way in other people, in other women that are really living, that I'm getting to be in connection to my career. So in terms of diversity and finding the equity in general, for the solutions that we are looking for the community, I think we have to build a lot still. Like, I feel that we are making good steps, and we are seeing more and more experiences where you, for instance, are finding the very strong way that you connect with people and bring them to discuss the problem with you, that's a challenge. I mean, people are overwhelmed with multiple things, and you're bringing just one more problem to their life that you want them to contribute and give the solution. So people will not find the time like easily to come and talk to you and tell them what they think is relevant. So this is a big challenge. We try our best to accommodate like multiple meetings, multiple times, different groups, communication in general, like publishing every social media everywhere to see if we can attract people, like telling like this is the problem we're dealing now. Please come and tell us your opinion. Send us an email, send a comment, tag here. But it's still, I think we are far away from where we should be.
Have you been using, obviously during COVID, we shifted to virtual meetings. And obviously with Water Citizen, that was our thing 10 years ago, this idea that, hey, we can use virtual space to do, public meetings, outreach meetings, stakeholder meetings, peer reviews. This is a great platform. And it wasn't until COVID that a lot of utilities, and water agencies and other water professionals just would not go online at all. And suddenly we had to do, NEPA studies, environmental impact assessments, rule changes, outreach meetings, all virtual. And I know in the Black community, there's been studies that, people felt more comfortable without, dealing with microaggressions, that they could join from their own home, and kids were doing better in school in some cases. What were you seeing in the Hispanic community during COVID, and then has that continued after COVID?
Yeah, two things on that side. So during COVID, definitely the transition between like your kids at home and your work and all those multiple new things you had to handle was something that impact in general the way we connected with the communities and with our co-workers and with the stakeholders. But at the same time, I felt it was quick. It was quick that we learned all those new tools and the new connection ways that we could have. And these are coming to stay. And definitely what you said is true. The work that you were doing 10 years ago is central. Like now we have way more path, like way more options to connect with people, way more ways that people can learn about our work, that can hear directly from the person that are doing the decisions, and that can send comments to them. Like that's big, that's great. At the same time, I feel that this ability to connect easily also brought a lot of information to everybody, a lot of opportunities. Like, so you can be attending 5 conferences in the same week because you were getting all those invitations and you have to understand how you prioritize things. So from the community side, I see that they probably are dealing with the same challenges. So the key now is how you really call the attention, like how you really kind of connect with the relevant stakeholders and make them reserve the time for you, because even though it's easier to connect with them, they also are exposed to way more things that they should be involved, that they want to be involved. So it's the power of communication. It's really you making sure you tell them how this is relevant for their lives.
Yeah. In the a lot of the stuff that we do, whether it's this virtual summit, and by the way, for all of you watching, go ahead and type in the chat, what have your experiences? How did things go for you going online? Are you working in communities with different cultures and different languages? And we use a lot of the models that have been developed in the online education, online coaching space. And it's a process of kind of attracting people with a little bit of information, and then saying, hey, we've got a little more here and a little more, and gradually getting them into deeper and deeper levels of relationship, of trust, of loyalty. Oh, I like that Carolina woman. Yeah, she was really good last time, and she's, if I didn't understand something, she could speak Spanish, and and they, and have things set up so that it's not just one time, right? Like we're going to have activities all week long. People have a chance to keep coming back and coming back and coming back, right? And that builds trust and loyalty the more you get to know people, even if it's in a virtual setting, right?
I agree. This is really what you said, is trust and loyalty.
Yes,
You have to
yes.
show them. You have to show your commitment to this, to build trust, to build a relationship that is loyal, that is respectful. So it takes time, it takes effort, it takes a lot of people engaging on that and really finding the room to prioritize this. But it gives you the support that you need, because things, especially when you're dealing with the public environment, the government, you have to get your validation. You need to have your support coming from the community that you're working with. So,
Yeah.
and really, this is a big piece of what we do as public employees.
Yeah. Yeah. I've talked with some of the other folks about a recent meeting I was at, one of these listening sessions for the new National Natural Assessment, executive order last year. We're going to figure out the natural benefits of different, this and that, want to have equity, want to bring in different, communities and cultures and whatnot. And they wanted to hire a lot of, have a lot of diversity on the team. So they hire a lot of young kids who are, just out of school, very diverse, but they get a lot of book sports and they haven't been out in the field. And we're out in the community, and it's sort of this idea of, yeah, let's have people share their stories. And it's like, oh, it's not just tell your story and everybody applaud and go sit down, right? It's what is the information we
Exactly.
can get from that story? How does that inform decision making? And how does that help them to understand that they are a part of that process for co-creating water management tools with the community, right?
Exactly. And it's interesting what you were touching, because I think there is this important communication factor that is like, you are proposing something that you can really achieve. Because if you are going out and just kind of brainstorming ideas in a very high level that people might think, yeah, this is good, but I mean, this is not what they really will do. It doesn't help. People will lose the connection. People will lose the respect. So you need to go, need to train. Even if you have a young group, diverse group, and you want to connect, this group needs to understand an overall goal. They need to be having a common agenda that people navigate through, and they understand they are committed to something that is achievable, that we all can build together. Because if not, you're there just kind of deliberating ideas of saving the world, but not really concrete ideas that will be taking into like fruition, that we will be able to really implement. So this is part of the process, and you have to tie in
Creating
things.
partnerships. Yeah. Creating
Yeah.
partnerships with the community. Absolutely. Absolutely. Very cool. Right? And now you and I was just thinking about this. You and we published some papers together while you were. So basically, I had a chance to get a contract when I had my own consultancy on the Hill, and needed someone to kind of help me set up the models and do some of the work. And so we worked on the project in Alberta, right? And did we go together to the Free Fight conference in
There was,
Alberta? And then there was a conference in Virginia, where we presented. So I don't
yeah,
know if that was, one of the first
yeah.
places that you had co-authored papers and things like that, or if you'd been doing that for a while.
Yes, it was one of my initial papers in the US. And it was definitely my initial paper when we touched the environmental question. Like, I was bringing, of course, environmental questions as for balancing multi-decision analysis. But I remember that the work that we did together was really focusing on one of the ecosystem restoration goals and like species, and really looking at the impacts of that. So it was my first time understanding that in the context of water resources.
Yeah, yeah, it was for farmers that were developing wetlands on their property that the oil sands companies and others could have as compensation wetlands, and brought some income for the farmers and brought some habitat to the area and preserved the habitat in the farmlands, and yeah, some really cool stuff there. And when we talk about mentorship in this space, it's not just telling women, oh, good job. It's things like co-authoring papers and making sure they come to conferences with you, really engaging them in the work, and not just assuming that if a woman has kids, she's not going to want to do that, which you didn't at the time, but still, not just assuming that women don't want to travel, or people making a lot of assumptions like that. So I'm really glad we had a chance to do some of that work together, and I'm really glad to see how far you've taken it, how far you've gone with your career. Really proud of you.
Oh, thank you. I know you also offer some support, and it was a pleasure to work with you when I was in TSU and get to know you and engage with new topics for me at that time too. It was very, very nice.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I know that she's got some kids she's got to get home, and just tell us quick what's next for you. Where are you heading? Are you kind of just sort of continuing on as resiliency officer while raising the kids? Are you looking at maybe advancing more, or waiting until the kids are older? How old are they anyway? I can't see them in the back there.
Yeah, I will show them in a little bit. They are 9 and 11. They are adorable. They are very smart, very loving, and it's very fulfilling. They are a big part of my life. I find the balance in my career and the time that I want to spend with them. It's a challenge every day, but I have my husband that gives me a lot of support for me to also pursue my career and allow me to do some traveling, not a lot of traveling, but some traveling when I feel I can do that. So it is a challenge, is a balance, but I feel I can do, and the position I am now allows me to work on those multiple sides. I want to stay. I think I'm building. So this area that I'm working on is new in the agency. It's 3 years that I'm building this new area, and it's a very nice area. I'm feeling that I'm getting to a point now that is where I want this program to be. So it's challenging, but it's kind of getting the momentum that we need. So it's been great. I feel I have a few more years, I would say even 10 more years to really consolidate this program, work with some partners here in the region, implement the things that we are planning, and really kind of bring those elements to resiliency. So yeah, that's my plan. My plan for the next years is really get to the implementation level on the program and the components that we are building at the agency.
Cool, very cool. Well, so I don't know if you can show the kids, or you're still driving.
Do you want to come, guys? Do you want to come, guys?
Hello.
Let me get to them. Do you want to say hello?
Hi. Who's that?
Matthias. Sorry.
Matthias? Very nice to meet you.
Now Henry, go.
Hello.
Long day?
Henry 11, yes?
You're 11. Okay. Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, they are supporting you clearly, and they're right behind you. And it's great to have kids able to see their mom doing such amazing things.
Definitely. They are my support. And when I see the shine in their eyes, I know I'm on the right path.
Excellent. 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 Well, yeah, no, it's really great to catch up with you and see all the amazing things that you're doing. And really kudos for making that opportunity work for you, because it can be really hard to just sit there writing application after application when there are incredibly talented people, especially a lot of very talented women that are ready to get back into the workforce, that are making a career change, and please make use of the women that are out there, folks. So go ahead and type in the chat. Let us know what your experiences have been. Keep coming back for all the other sessions. And Carolina, any last words of recommendations, or words of encouragement or warning or anything for our audience?
I would say follow your heart. Don't get discouraged. We can do everything we want.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, come on back. Check out all the program. And thanks, Carolina. Thanks so much for joining us for this extraordinary conversation, one of 45 extraordinary conversations we had as part of the Women of Water Get Real virtual summit, where we explored where and why women are leaking from the water career pipeline, how we can stop those leaks, and even bring women back to water. I hope that you will enjoy all of these amazing interviews. If you don't have a chance to watch all of them during the summit, you have the opportunity to join us with a power pack and get lifetime access to all the videos, as well as an opportunity to join us for 30 days in a brand new community where we will dig even deeper in live facilitated conversations about some of the issues that are facing women in water. Look forward to seeing you there. Please join us at watercitizen.org/women, watercitizen.org/women for more information. See you again soon.